The vast observation deck of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Dawn buzzed with activity as officers rushed to their stations. Admiral Corva stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding him. "Report," he commanded, voice echoing across the chamber. Lieutenant Vell tapped rapidly on her console. "Unknown vessels detected at the edge of Sector 7. Sir, small fleet, primitive design. 7 ships in total." Admiral Corva flicked a limb dismissively. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying several small ships drifting slowly through space. They appeared almost laughably basic, boxy structures with visible weld lines, simple propulsion systems, and what looked like manually operated weapons arrays. A ripple of laughter spread through the command center. "Those can't be serious vessels," said Commander Drell, Corva's second-in-command. "They look like mining barges retrofitted with guns." Admiral Corva's mouth curled into what passed for a smile among the Vrel. "Indeed. What species controls this collection of junk?" Lieutenant Vell studied her readouts. "Unknown, sir. We have no record of these design signatures in our database. They appear to be from beyond the outer rim." "Interesting." Corva leaned forward. "Have they responded to standard identification protocols?" "Yes, sir. They identify themselves as humans from a planet called Earth. They claim to be on a diplomatic and exploratory mission." The Admiral snorted. "Diplomatic? With those ships, they wouldn't survive a meteor shower, let alone an actual confrontation." He gestured to the screen. "Look at those pitiful excuses for defense systems. I've seen better protection on cargo drones." The bridge crew chuckled obediently. "Should we consider them a threat, sir?" asked Commander Drell. "A threat?" Corva laughed, a harsh, clicking sound. "I'd call them a curiosity at best. Their technology appears to be centuries behind ours." He waved a hand dismissively. "Keep an eye on them, but they're hardly worth our attention. Just another primitive species stumbling into space." As the Admiral turned away, Lieutenant Vell's voice stopped him. "Sir, there's something else. The humans are requesting formal contact with the Confederation. They say they wish to establish diplomatic relations." Corva paused. "How bold of them," he said slowly. "Very well. Inform the Council. We'll humor these humans with a diplomatic reception. It's been some time since we've welcomed a new species into known space, even one so underdeveloped." 3 rotation cycles later, the Confederation Council convened in the Grand Chamber. Representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations gathered to discuss the unexpected visitors. "These humans pose no military threat," said Corva, addressing the assembly. "Their tiny fleet is barely worth mentioning in our records. However, new species always offer opportunities for trade, for resources, perhaps even for technological exchange, though I doubt they have much to offer us." High Chancellor Reth, the eldest of the Mizar race, leaned forward on her hovering platform. "Never judge a species by their first appearance, Admiral. The Trellics appeared primitive when we first encountered them, yet their understanding of quantum biology revolutionized our medical practices." Corva inclined his head respectfully, but couldn't hide his skepticism. "Of course, Chancellor. Nevertheless, I suggest a cautious approach. We'll send a diplomatic team to assess these humans properly. I will lead the delegation myself," announced Ambassador Thel, rising from his seat. The Luminite's skin glowed softly in the chamber's dim light. "First contact is too important to delegate to lower ranks." "As you wish, Ambassador," said Corva. "But don't be surprised if you find nothing but a shipload of primitive beings with delusions of grandeur." As the meeting concluded, Corva returned to the observation deck, watching the distant human vessels on the display. The so-called tiny fleet remained in formation, waiting patiently at the designated coordinates. "Keep watching them," he ordered. "I want to know if they so much as adjust their position." Little did Admiral Corva know that these seemingly unimpressive ships would soon change everything the Confederation thought they knew about warfare, technology, and the nature of advancement itself. Ambassador Thel stood in the docking bay of the Confederation diplomatic vessel Light of Unity watching through the transparent barrier as the small human shuttle approached. Unlike the sleek, organic curves of Confederation craft, the human vessel was all hard angles and exposed rivets. Primitive, but functional, murmured his aide, Rila. Thel nodded. Remember our briefing. Appearances can deceive. The shuttle docked with a series of mechanical clanks that made several members of the welcoming committee wince. When the airlock finally opened, Thel was surprised to see beings that looked remarkably similar to several other bipedal species in the Confederation, though without scales, fur, or other common features. A tall human with short gray hair stepped forward, extending a hand in what Thel's cultural briefing had identified as a greeting gesture. Captain James Walker of the Earth vessel Resilience *. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for this meeting. Thel touched his own palm to the humans, noting the firm pressure. Ambassador Thel of the Galactic Confederation, we welcome you to known space. Walker smiled, a universal expression that Thel recognized. Known to you, perhaps, we humans have been exploring our corner of the galaxy for some time now. Something in the human's confident tone caught Thel's attention. Despite commanding what the Confederation considered little more than space junk, this Captain Walker showed no signs of intimidation. We would be honored to show you our flagship, Walker continued, a gesture of transparency and goodwill. 2 hours later, Thel found himself walking the corridors of the human vessel Resilience *. The exterior had not prepared him for what he found inside. While certainly not as advanced as Confederation technology, the ship's interior was unexpectedly sophisticated. This is our bridge, said Walker, leading the delegation into a compact command center. Thel looked around curiously. Your controls seem unusual. Walker nodded. We designed for flexibility and redundancy. Every station can take over the functions of any other if needed. And these. Thel pointed to what appeared to be physical backup controls. Manual overrides. We've found that in certain crisis situations, direct mechanical connections can be more reliable than pure digital systems. As the tour continued, Thel noticed more peculiarities. The ship's power systems were a hybrid of technologies that shouldn't work well together, but somehow did. The weapons systems, while outwardly basic, contained targeting algorithms of surprising complexity. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Marcus showed them the heart of the ship. Our fusion drive is compact, but efficient. We learn to do more with less. Necessity breeds innovation, Walker added. Earth isn't rich in many resources you take for granted. We adapted. Thel studied a schematic on the wall. These modifications, they weren't part of the original design. Marcus laughed. Good eye. This ship has been upgraded 7 times in its service life. We don't discard vessels. We improve them. Later, in what the humans called the mess hall, Thel observed the crew interacting. Despite hierarchical ranks, there was an unusual familiarity between officers and subordinates. When problems arose, as one did with an environmental control system, multiple crew members offered solutions rather than waiting for orders. Your command structure seems flexible, Thel commented to Walker. The captain nodded. Humans thrive on initiative. I set the objective. My people determine the best way to achieve it. When the tour concluded, Thel found himself with more questions than answers. The human ships were indeed less advanced in many ways, but they contained innovations and adaptations he hadn't expected. Back aboard his vessel, Thel drafted his report to Admiral Corva. The humans appear to possess technology several generations behind our standard, he wrote. However, I advise caution in assessment. Their approach to technology is unorthodox but effective. More importantly, they display exceptional adaptability and problem-solving skills. I believe it would be a significant error to dismiss these newcomers based solely on appearances. He sent the report, Knowing Admiral Corva would likely ignore his warning, the Confederation had grown comfortable in its technological superiority, perhaps too comfortable to recognize a different kind of strength when they saw it. 3 days after the diplomatic exchange, alarm klaxons blared across the Confederation monitoring station. Admiral Corva rushed to the command center, his scales bristling with irritation. "Report," he barked. Commander Drell's fingers danced across the holographic display. "Sir, we have an unauthorized engagement in Sector 7. The Drazak battle group has broken formation and is moving toward the human vessels." Corva hissed in frustration. The Drazak, a warrior faction within the Confederation, were known for their aggression and disregard for protocol. "Who authorized this?" he demanded. "No one, sir." Commander Vex of the Drazak claims he's conducting a combat readiness assessment of the newcomers. On the main screen, 5 Drazak warships approached the human fleet in attack formation. The humans had arranged their 7 ships in a loose cluster that seemed to offer minimal defensive capability. "Hail Commander Vex immediately," ordered Corva. The scared face of the Drazak commander appeared on screen. "Admiral," he acknowledged with barely concealed disdain. "Explain yourself, Commander. You have no authorization for this action." Vex's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Merely a training exercise, Admiral. These humans entered our space uninvited. It seems prudent to evaluate their capabilities." "Stand down immediately," Corva ordered. "The humans are here by invitation of the Council." "Communications appear to be failing," Vex replied, his voice dripping with false regret. "We'll contact you after our exercise." The transmission cut off. "Arrogant fool," muttered Corva. "He'll slaughter those primitive vessels and create a diplomatic nightmare." He turned to his communications officer. "Warn the humans to retreat. Tell them." "Sir," interrupted Commander Drell, "the humans are transmitting a message to the Drazak." The voice of Captain Walker filled the command center, calm and measured. "Drazak vessels, this is Captain Walker of Earth Ship Resilience *. Your approach vector indicates hostile intent. We request you alter course immediately. We have no wish for conflict, but will defend ourselves if necessary." Commander Vex's mocking reply followed. "Human ships, prepare to demonstrate your combat capabilities, or lack thereof. Consider this your initiation into galactic politics." Admiral Corva watched with grim resignation. The tiny human fleet would be decimated in minutes. The Drazak ships opened fire. What happened next left everyone on the Confederation command deck speechless. The seemingly ungainly human vessels moved with unexpected agility, breaking their formation and executing evasive maneuvers that seemed impossible for ships of their bulk. The first volley of Drazak weapons fire missed entirely. "How are they moving like that?" gasped an officer. The human ships suddenly deployed previously unseen thrusters, rotating on multiple axes simultaneously. Then, to greater shock, energy shields flickered to life around each vessel, shields far more advanced than their exterior technology suggested possible. "Impossible," whispered Corva. "Those ships showed no shield generators in our scans." Captain Walker's voice came through again. "Drazak vessels, that was your only warning. Cease fire, or we will respond." The Drazak answered with another barrage. This time, some hits connected with the human shields, which held firm. Then the human ships counterattacked. Instead of conventional energy weapons, the vessels fired what appeared to be small projectiles. The Confederation officers watched in disbelief as these projectiles split into swarms of micro-munitions that overwhelmed the Drazak point defense systems. They detonated against the hulls, creating precise, targeted damage. "They're not trying to destroy the ships," realized Drell. "They're disabling weapons and propulsion systems." Within minutes, 3 Drazak ships drifted powerless, their weapons disabled. The remaining 2 broke off their attack and retreated, pursued by warning shots from the human vessels. In the stunned silence of the command center, Lieutenant Veld's voice seemed too loud. "Admiral, The human flagship is hailing us. Captain Walker's face appeared on screen, as calm as if he were discussing the weather. Admiral Corva, I presume. We've neutralized an attack by vessels bearing Confederation markings. We've disabled rather than destroyed them, as we prefer to resolve misunderstandings without unnecessary loss of life. Corva struggled to maintain his composure. Captain Walker, I apologize for this unauthorized aggression. The Drazak acted without Confederation approval. Walker nodded. We understand. Perhaps now would be a good time to continue our diplomatic discussions with a better understanding of each other's capabilities. As the transmission ended, Admiral Corva stared at the screen, his earlier mockery of the tiny fleet echoing uncomfortably in his mind. It seems, he said slowly, we have much to learn about these humans. Intelligence Officer Mrek moved silently through the corridors of the human flagship *Resilience*. After the Drazak incident, the Confederation Council had ordered a thorough investigation of human technology. Captain Walker had surprisingly agreed, allowing a small team to inspect their vessels under escort. Mrek ran his sensor wand over the corridor wall, frowning at the readings. Something wasn't adding up. Finding anything interesting? Asked Lieutenant Harris, his human escort. Your hull composition is unusual, Mrek replied carefully. The outer layer appears primitive, but these inner layers contain nanomaterials we've only seen in experimental Confederation labs. Harris smiled slightly. We call it deceptive design. The exterior is simple durasteel, easy to repair in the field with basic tools. Underneath are the layers that actually matter. Mrek followed Harris into the engine room, where Chief Engineer Marcus was waiting. The space was cramped compared to Confederation vessels, with exposed conduits and manual controls alongside advanced interfaces. This is where things get interesting, said Marcus, gesturing to the ship's core. Want to see what really powers this primitive vessel? He pressed his hand against a panel, and a section of flooring retracted to reveal a pulsing blue light, a reactor-type Mrek had never seen before. Impossible, whispered Mrek. Your energy output readings were a fraction of this. Marcus grinned. Selective emissions. We vent most signatures but keep the important ones contained. Makes us look weaker than we are. But why? Asked Mrek. Why disguise your capabilities? Humanity learned caution the hard way, explained Harris. Our first interstellar conflicts taught us that appearing harmless has advantages. Over the next few hours, Mrek discovered more surprises. The clunky-looking weapons systems concealed targeting computers more advanced than Confederation standard. The hull's ragged welds hid microscopic repair systems that could seal breaches almost instantly. In the tactical room, Captain Walker finally joined them. I trust you're finding your tour enlightening, Officer Mrek. These ships, Mrek said slowly, they're nothing like they appear. Walker nodded. Earth has limited resources compared to your Confederation worlds. We never had the luxury of building massive fleets, so we had to get creative. Every ship must be adaptable, efficient, and, when necessary, deceptive. He activated a display showing the recent battle. The Drazak attacked assuming our capabilities matched our appearance. That mistake gave us the advantage. But these modifications, Mrek gestured around. Some of this technology equals or exceeds Confederation standards. In some areas, yes, Walker acknowledged. In others, we're genuinely behind. We excel at asymmetric approaches, doing more with less. Necessity drove our innovation. Walker led Mrek to a small viewing port where they could see the *Resilience's sister ships. Each of our vessels is unique. We modify constantly, adapt after every encounter. No standardized designs means no predictable weaknesses. Like fighting 7 different species at once, Mrek realized. Exactly. And every crew member can repair and modify their own ship. That's why we keep some systems deliberately mechanical. In an emergency, a human with a wrench can fix what a computer might not. Later, in a secure briefing room aboard the Confederation flagship, Mrek delivered his findings to Admiral Corva and the senior command. The human ships employ what they call layered technology, Mrek explained. Simple, maintainable systems protecting sophisticated cores. Their weapons are limited but precisely applied. They focus on disabling rather than destroying because their resources are too valuable to waste on unnecessary destruction. Admiral Corvus' scales had lost their earlier luster. You're saying these ships we mocked are actually advanced? Not in the way we define advancement, Mrek clarified. They didn't follow our technological path. They took a different route entirely, one focused on efficiency, adaptability, and deception. And the Drazek fell for it completely, muttered Commander Drell. Mrek nodded. The humans call it tactical humility, appearing less capable than you are. While we built bigger ships with more powerful weapons, they built vessels that can adapt and surprise. Admiral Corvus stood, looking at the display showing the human fleet. The ships still appeared ungainly and primitive, but now he saw them with new eyes. 7 ships, he said quietly. 7 unique, unpredictable vessels that disabled 3 Drazak warships without destroying them. He turned to his officers. I believe we need to reassess everything we thought we knew about these humans. On the screen, the tiny fleet drifted peacefully in formation, their rough exteriors concealing secrets that had changed the balance of power in Confederation space overnight. News traveled quickly through the vast network of Confederation worlds. Within days, every major species had heard about the human vessels that had humiliated the feared Drazak battle group. Opinions were sharply divided. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives from 32 civilizations argued loudly, their voices echoing off the curved ceiling. These humans represent an opportunity, declared Ambassador Lynn of the Mercantile Trellix. Her feathered crest fluttered with excitement. Their approach to technology could revolutionize our shipbuilding methods, or destroy us all, countered Warlord Grask of the Drazak, his face still bearing the shame of his fleet's defeat. They deceived us once. They will do so again. Their ships hide their true capabilities. What else are they hiding? High Chancellor Reth raised her ancient hand for silence. We must not rush to judgment. The humans have shown both advanced technology and restraint. They disabled rather than destroyed their attackers. Admiral Corvus stood to address the council. The past week had aged him visibly, his scales dulled by stress. The intelligence reports are clear, he said. Human technology follows a different development path than our own. They prioritize efficiency and adaptability over raw power. This makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable means dangerous, shouted a Drazak representative. Or valuable, countered Ambassador Thel. We've grown complacent, assuming technological progress follows a single path. Our path. The humans prove otherwise. Outside the council chamber, public opinion was equally divided. In the markets and plazas of the Confederation capital, citizens debated the human question. I heard their ships can transform mid-battle, said a young Mizar to her friends at a popular gathering spot. Nonsense, replied an older Vrel. But they do use materials we've never seen before. My cousin works in the science division, says their hull composition makes no sense. Across the station, in a secure diplomatic compound, Captain Walker and his senior officers watched the unfolding debate on their communication screens. They're scared, observed Lieutenant Kim, the Resilience's tactical officer. Walker nodded. Fear is natural when confronting the unknown. We appeared harmless, then proved otherwise. Now they wonder what else they've misjudged. The Drazak delegation is pushing for our expulsion, reported Communications Officer Paddle. They're claiming we pose an existential threat to Confederation security. Walker smiled slightly. 7 ships against their thousands. Hardly a threat. Unless those 7 ships are only the first wave, said Chief Engineer Marcus, playing devil's advocate. That's what they're afraid of. Back in the council chamber, the debate had turned to practical matters. We should demand inspection of all human worlds, insisted a Drazak general. Verify their true military capacity. Ambassador Thel scoffed. And would you allow such inspections of Drazak worlds? They came in peace, and you attacked them. A test which they passed, the general growled, which raises more questions than it answers. Admiral Korva called for attention. Whatever we decide, we must act united. The humans have requested formal diplomatic relations. We must give them an answer. I say we invite them to join the Confederation, suggested Ambassador Lin. Better to have them with us than potentially against us. Join us. Warlord Grask slammed his fist on the table. They haven't proven themselves worthy of membership. They proved themselves when they defeated your ships without casualties, countered Thel calmly. As the debate raged on, Captain Walker received an urgent message from his homeworld. He read it silently, then shared it with his officers. Earth Command believes we should proceed with caution, he told them. The Confederation is divided over how to respond to us. We should neither push for full alliance nor withdraw completely. A middle path, agreed Lieutenant Kim. Show strength without threatening them. Precisely. Walker looked at the screen showing the council meeting. They're still underestimating us, despite everything they've seen. That works to our advantage for now. Outside the human compound, a crowd had gathered. Some curious, some supportive, some hostile. The news feeds carried constant speculation about human intentions and capabilities. The tiny fleet that had been mocked now dominated every conversation in Confederation space, proving that appearances could be the most effective deception of all. Red emergency lights flashed across the Confederation Command Center. Officers rushed between stations as damage reports flooded in from the outer defense perimeter. 3 more defense platforms gone, reported Commander Drell, his voice tight with strain. The Vorax fleet has broken through Sector 12. Admiral Korva stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 30 Confederation warships drifted helplessly, disabled by the surprise Vorax attack. The expansionist empire had struck without warning, their new phase shift technology allowing them to bypass early detection systems. How soon until reinforcements arrive? Korva demanded. 6 hours at minimum, sir. The nearest battle group was patrolling the Cygnus arm. Korva's scales darkened with stress. We won't last 6 hours. The door to the command center slid open, and Ambassador Thelb rushed in. Admiral, the human delegation is requesting immediate communication. The humans. Korva almost laughed. What could they possibly? Sir, interrupted Lieutenant Vel, the human fleet is moving. They're taking up position between our headquarters and the advancing Vorax. On the main screen, the 7 human vessels formed a tight formation directly in the path of the incoming Vorax Armada, 50 warships strong and advancing rapidly. They're insane, whispered Drell. They'll be annihilated. Captain Walker's face appeared on the communication screen. Admiral Korva, we've analyzed the Vorax attack pattern. Request permission to engage the enemy vanguard. Korva stared in disbelief. Captain, you have 7 ships against 50. This isn't your fight. Walker's expression remained calm. We've faced worse odds. The Vorax don't know our capabilities, which gives us an advantage. Besides, we can buy time for your reinforcements. With no other options, Korva nodded grimly. Permission granted. And thank you. The command center fell silent as all eyes turned to the tactical display. The human ships spread into a formation unlike any Confederation battle strategy, a loose, seemingly random pattern that presented no clear target. What are they doing? Murmured an officer. As the Vorax fleet approached, the human vessels suddenly accelerated to speeds that seemed impossible for their bulky frames. They weaved between the much larger Vorax ships, targeting propulsion and weapons systems with surgical precision. Look, gasped Drell, pointing at the screen. The human ships were deploying devices, small, drone-like objects that attached themselves to Vorax vessels. Wherever they connected, Vorax systems began to fail. Some kind of localized EMP technology, said Lieutenant Vel, checking her readings. They're shutting down Vorax ships without destroying them. On another screen, The interior of the human flagship showed Captain Walker and his crew working with focused intensity. Unlike the pristine Confederation command centers, the human bridge was utilitarian, with officers moving between stations, making rapid adjustments. Target the flagship's primary weapon array, Walker ordered. Deploy countermeasures against their phase shift technology. The Vorac's fleet, confused by the unexpected resistance, began to break formation. Their coordinated attack faltered as human vessels darted between them, disrupting communications and targeting systems. "They're fighting smart, not hard," realized Corva, using the Vorac's numbers against them. 3 hours into the battle, the first Confederation reinforcements arrived to find an astonishing sight. 17 Vorac ships disabled, 7 more retreating, and the human fleet, still intact, continuing to harass the remaining enemy vessels. In the command center, Admiral Corva watched with newfound respect as the human ships executed maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. They never engaged in direct firefights, instead using speed and precision to disable rather than destroy. "They fight like no species I've ever seen," he admitted to Ambassador Thel. Thel nodded, "because they evolved differently. While we built bigger weapons, they built smarter ones." As the combined human and Confederation forces pushed back the Vorac's invasion, Captain Walker transmitted a final message to the command center. "Admiral, the Vorac's flagship is attempting to regroup their forces at these coordinates. Suggest a joint strike to end this quickly." For the first time since the humans had arrived, Admiral Corva found himself smiling. "Agreed, Captain. Lead the way." The tiny fleet that had once been mocked now led the Confederation's finest ships into battle, teaching the galaxy's oldest spacefaring civilization a lesson in humility and innovation they would not soon forget. The Grand Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every Confederation world packed the tiered seating, with many standing in the aisles. At the center of the chamber stood Captain Walker and his senior officers, their simple blue uniforms standing out among the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor of the Confederation delegates. High Chancellor Reth raised her ancient hands for silence, and the murmuring crowd grew still. For the first time in 700 cycles, she began, her voice surprisingly strong. "The Confederation faces a moment of profound change. The Vorac's threat has been neutralized, thanks in large part to the intervention of our new friends from Earth." Admiral Corva stepped forward, his scales now gleaming with renewed vigor. 3 days ago, the combined forces of the Confederation and the human fleet defeated the largest Vorac's invasion force ever recorded. 29 enemy vessels destroyed or disabled, with minimal casualties on our side. He turned to face Captain Walker directly. "I once mocked your ships as primitive. I called your fleet tiny and insignificant." He bowed his head. "I have never been so pleased to be proven wrong." The chamber erupted in approving sounds, clicks, whistles, and humanoid applause, as Captain Walker nodded in acknowledgement. "Admiral," Walker said, "we understand your initial assessment. Our ships were designed to be underestimated." He gestured to his officers. "Humans have faced extinction several times in our history. We learned to use every advantage, including deception." Walker activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, a blue-green world with swirling clouds. 200 years ago, our planet was nearly destroyed by environmental collapse and civil war. We faced resource shortages, climate disasters, and technological setbacks. When we finally reached the stars, we did so with limited materials and a hard-earned respect for efficiency. The display shifted to show the evolution of human spacecraft, from crude early vessels to the current design of the ** Resilience *. Our ships appear simple because every component must serve multiple purposes. Our crews train not just as specialists, but as generalists, each able to perform any role if needed. We never had the luxury of building disposable ships or training replaceable crews. Ambassador Thel moved to stand beside Walker. "The Confederation has much to learn from humanity's approach. We've grown complacent in our technological superiority, forgetting that true advancement comes from innovation, not just iteration. Warlord Grask, his pride still wounded but his respect earned, stepped forward. The Drazek acknowledged the humans as worthy warriors. He extended a clawed hand toward Walker. You fought with honor and skill. We would be proud to fight alongside you in future battles. Walker clasped the warlord's hand firmly. Let's hope those battles are few and far between. But yes, we would be honored to stand with you. High Chancellor Reth raised her hands again. Captain Walker, it is the unanimous decision of this council to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities therein. Walker looked to his officers, who nodded their approval. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept your offer with gratitude and commitment to our shared future. The formal ceremony continued, but Admiral Corva found himself drawn to a quiet conversation with Chief Engineer Marcus near one of the chamber's observation windows. There's one thing I still don't understand, Corva admitted. Your ships were clearly designed for deception, but you couldn't have known you'd encounter us specifically. Marcus smiled. No, but humanity learned long ago that appearing less capable than you are is a universal advantage. The strongest fighter is the one no one challenges. A philosophy the Confederation would do well to learn, Corva acknowledged. Outside the window, the 7 human ships drifted alongside the massive Confederation fleet, small but now commanding a respect that dwarfed their physical size. That evening, as celebrations spread throughout the Confederation capital, Captain Walker stood with Admiral Corva on the observation deck, watching their fleets together. To think, said Corva, just 2 weeks ago I laughed at your tiny fleet. Walker smiled. Sometimes the smallest dogs bark the loudest. And bite the hardest, added Corva, raising a glass in salute. The human fleet might be small, but it had changed the Confederation forever, proving that true strength comes not from size or appearance, but from innovation, adaptability, and the courage to face overwhelming odds with unwavering resolve.